very good morning, children. Hope you have understood the topic called as prepositions, which we discussed yesterday. So today we are going to discuss a poem, okay? And the name of the poem is My Shadow, okay? Shall we go ahead? This poem is written by Robert Louis Stevenson. This poem is written by a poet named Robert Louis Stevenson, okay? Now, how a shadow is formed? When you object the light rays, a shadow is formed, right? You all very interested to make some pictures, when there is a light rays falling down, you want to block that and you want to make some nice animals and also face of the human beings, okay? So that the shadow falls in the walls and all, so that is how the shadows are formed, okay? And in science also you might have seen the experiments where you put a candle and you keep a ball here and there so that the shadow of the object will be formed, right? So that is how we all know that how the shadows are formed, okay? Now here in this poem we are going to see a small boy, okay? A small boy, how he is fascinated, okay? How he is surprised to see a shadow of his own, okay? And he started observing the shadow in such a way. You can see how he is fascinated with this shadow and he starts observing his shadow, and he tells us so many things, okay, which we have not even thought in our wildest dreams about the shadow. That is from now, this poem is not from the mind of a poet. It's from the mindset of a child. You could know mindset in the sense perspective of a child. Okay, it is true. You read this poem in the as a child reads this poem, as a child tells something about his shadow. So he is of your age. Just imagine that the child is of your age, and now whatever the things which comes in your mind about your shadow, when you see the shadow, the same things, he will also tell you back. He will tell you some things, things which you never imagine. Okay, so now shall we start the lesson poem? Okay. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me. So I have a little shadow. The child is speaking that, I have a little shadow. In the sense, he's just assuming that this shadow is just like a friend to him. He's just like a companion to him. Okay. So he says that there is a little shadow. Okay. There is a little shadow that goes in and out with me. That is when I go into the house or when I go out of the house, when I roam under the sun. Okay. This shadow always follows me. It always sticks to me. Okay. It always comes with me. It comes along with me like a friend. Okay. And what can be the use of him is more than I can see. So he also says that whatever the use he thinks that the shadow can give him, it is more than what he can even imagine. So the shadow tells him more and more things because he starts observing the shadow, and now he tells a lot of things to us about the shadow. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head. So now he says that this shadow of the boy is absolutely like the boy. From the heels, from the legs, from the heels, okay, from the heels to the head, okay, from to the head, it is exactly like the boy. The boy says that the shadow is exactly like him. It is exactly like him from the heels to the head. There is no difference at all. And I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. I also see this shadow. That means the boy says that he sees the shadow jump into the bed before he jumps into the bed. So when there is a shadow and you try to jump, okay, the shadow goes in front of you, right? It goes faster than you, right? So that is how he says that when I want to jump into the bed, this shadow goes before me into the bed. So that is how he tells his observations about the shadow. This is how he was really very much fascinated to know about the shadow. Okay, here you have to understand that the child doesn't know what a shadow is. Okay, the child doesn't know how the shadow is formed. The child doesn't know the logic behind the formation of a shadow. He doesn't know what science is behind the shadow. Okay, he is only thinking that the shadow is formed and comes with him wherever he goes. Okay, that is what his thought is all about. Okay, so now we'll come to the second paragraph. So what you can see here is, you can see the excitement of the child when he tells about the shadow, when he tells about his own shadow. Okay, now come to the second paragraph. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow, not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. He says that he has noticed some funniest thing. He has noticed some funniest thing in the shadow. You know what is the funniest thing he has noticed? Okay, like no children, if you take your age group children and all, no, do you think they will grow very fastly? No, the growth process is very slow. They grow very slow, right? Isn't they grow very slow? But whereas the shadows are not like that. So it depends upon the sun, the direction of the sun, and within no time it will grow like anything, isn't it? So the same thing the child is saying here. It's not like the proper children who grow very slow, but the shadow, no, it grows like no very it's a funniest thing. He likes to grow. He likes to grow. What is thing the shadow likes? He says that it likes to grow. So it grows very. For he sometimes shoots up taller like an Indian rubber ball. So sometimes he's so tall as an Indian rubber ball. So when I tell about the Indian rubber ball, you might have come to something has come into your mind. Right now, when there's a rubber ball in your hand and when you hit it on the ground, it goes very high into the air. So that is how it grows very tall like a rubber ball. When you hit the rubber ball to the ground, it goes up to a very great height. That is how this shadow also grows in the same length. And he sometimes gets so little that there is none of him at all. And sometimes, so like when the sun is exactly on your head and all, no, the shadow will be very small. And when the horizon changes also, you cannot see your own shadow. So he says that sometimes, no, the shadow will grow very tall, and sometimes when I see here and there, I will not find my shadow. The shadow is not with me. Okay, it becomes so small, and sometimes it's like no, there is no shadow at all. The boy said all these things and all. So this child is actually surprised to see how the shadow grows and how the shadow becomes very small, and sometimes the shadow is not at all seen anywhere. So he was shocked, he was surprised, okay, to see what's happening to his shadow. Okay, now we'll come to the third paragraph. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he is a coward, you can see. I would think shame to stick to nursery as that shadow sticks to me. So here he says that, the child says that he hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play. Now now the boy says that the shadow doesn't know how he has to behave when he's playing with the other children, isn't it? So what is a normal way of playing? And all of the children will like, they love to play in the groups and all. Okay, so they love to run here and there. That is how they will make the play and all, and also to make fun. Okay, but now the shadow doesn't have that sense. The shadow doesn't have that sense, and he says that, the boy says that the shadow always fools him around, always plays the tricks on him around. Okay, that is how the boy felt here. And he says that, and how he plays a fool of him. That is what he says. He sticks so close beside to me. So he sticks so close beside to him. The shadow will not leave us, isn't it? Even when you run or when you walk or when you sit, the shadow is exactly beside us. So it will stick to us, isn't it? So it will not leave us. It will not get separated. So he says that this shadow, when I play also, this shadow will not get separated and it will not play with me. So it will stick to me. When I run, it also will come with me. When I walk, it also will come with me. So it doesn't know how to play, how to behave when I usually play. So he always sticks to me, beside me, as if he's a coward. Coward in the sense here, who is afraid of everything. The coward is a opposite of or antonym of brave. So you know a brave person, right? So he is very brave. But whereas this child, the shadow which the child describing is a coward. Is a coward. That means he is afraid of everything. So that is how the shadow will not leave the child. It always sticks to him. I would think shame to stick to Nursey as the shadow sticks to him. So he says that he doesn't want to stick to a nurse. Okay. So he doesn't want to stick to a nurse, and in the same way the shadow also sticks to him every time. It doesn't leave him at all. That is what the child says in the third paragraph. Now coming to the fourth paragraph. One morning very early before the sun was up. One morning very early. That means the sun has not come out, right? You can only see the shadow when there is sun. That is all we know. Now this child doesn't know that. So one morning he woke up very early, and the sun was not up at that particular time. So there was no sun in the sky at that time. And he rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. So he went out and saw the shining dews, right? You know, the water drops on the herbaceous plants over there, the herbs or the plants over there, on the leaves of the plants over there. So he was enjoying them. But now he says that, but my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in the bed. So he says that his lazy little shadow, okay, a lazy little shadow, like a kind of errant fellow, okay, so he doesn't want to get up from the sleep and all. So the shadow is still asleep and did not come out with me. So because every time when he goes out and when he comes in, he runs and plays, always the shadow is with him. But now when he woke up early in the morning, when the sun was not up, when the sun was not the sun did not appear in the sky, this child went out and he says that his shadow did not come with me because it is very lazy and it is very fast asleep. And the child says that when he was enjoying the nature, still the lazy shadow is still in the bed. He stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in the bed. So this shadow did not come with me because he is still in the bed and he was lay asleep. He was asleep, and that's the reason why he did not come with me. So that is how the child describes the shadow. That is how the child tells about his own shadow. Okay, so this is how the poet described the shadow, okay, through the perspective of a small child. So by this we come to the end of the poem. Okay, children. So here if you come to the page number 47, there are some words. Okay, notion is a word which you see in the third paragraph. A conception or a belief about something. The meaning is a conception or a belief about something. Next is errant, a complete or absolute. The word is, and the meaning of errant is complete or absolute. Nursey, you can say a nickname for a nurse. Buttercup, a herbaceous plant with bright yellow cup-shaped flowers. Next is coward, frightened, afraid, okay, who runs away from the danger. Okay, so these are all the meanings which are over here. Okay, children, come to the page number. Come to the page number 50. Pick the correct option. And what can be the use of him is more than I can see. What do you think the poet means to say in this line? I can't see my shadow. I don't like my shadow following me. I don't see the purpose of having a shadow. So the answer for this is, that is the first one, A is, I don't see the purpose of having a shadow, because he see more than what are the uses of the shadow, because always when it goes inside him, and sometimes it comes outside the boy, and only just it roams with him, it sticks to him, so he doesn't see any use of that particular shadow. How are the second and third stanzas alike? Both stanzas have 4 lines. In both stanzas, the poet talks about how the shadows changes size. In both stanzas, the poet seems to compare the shadow to children. So, which is the right one here? Yes, I think it's third one, that is in both stanzas. Okay, the poet seems to compare the shadow with the children. In fourth stanza, why poet have no shadow? When you come to the fourth stanza, why the poet have no shadow? The poet had no shadow because there is dew on the ground. The poet had no shadow because the sun is not up yet. The poet has no shadow because the poet is asleep. No. Which one is the right one? Yeah, the second one is right. The poet has no shadow because the sun is not up yet. What is the main purpose of the poem? What is the main purpose of the poem? To explain why people have shadows. Is it to explain why people have shadows? Or to appreciate how shadows do funny things? To make fun of shadows? So I think it's the second one, that is to appreciate how shadows do funny things. Which word best describes the speaker's tone? Which word describes the speaker's tone? So is it a serious note? Okay. Or is it angry, or is it lively? It is absolutely lively. The child, the poet here, in the perspective of a child, is a really very lively, and also he is explaining everything what's happening with him along with the shadow. Okay, children. So we'll end this topic here, poem here, and tomorrow we'll have the discussion of the question and answers. Until then, see you all. Have a great day. Take care and bye.